Welcome to the Fear Fiction Podcast. Fearfic is the term for short horror fiction, mostly posted on the web. It includes any and all related subgenres. Join three assholes talking basement goo Slimebeast, inebriated interstellar traveler Abysmii, and irritable ghostly man-horde Dead Palette, as they read all stories horror and internet-related, paragraph by paragraph, and bullshit while they do it. From adolescent revenge fantasies to subtle postmodern narratives about real-life events and everything in between, they read it and critique. You better believe it. Kick it to the cold open, white boy.
Remakes. How do you feel about remakes of video
Remakes.
games?
I'm of two minds about it because...
That's our opinion. So no need to elaborate on it. We're of two minds about it. And that's...
Welcome to Two
opinion.
Minds with Abysmii and Brandon. I feel one way, I feel the other way, and that's our show.
We agree to disagree. Fine.
I don't know. Like on the one hand, I'm like, make something new, because typically when big media rehashes things, it's it's nice, but I'd rather experience something new. But I've never played a lot of these things because I didn't have consoles growing up. So remaking them does provide an opportunity, albeit a shitty one, for people to play something. The problem is I still don't have a PS5, and I'm not going to get one because I don't have consoles. So it's like,
PC
okay.
Master Race. Like, yeah, I want to spend $1,000 to play a console game. Like,
My Paprika was talking with kind of like actually her cousin technically, who's also doing like some electrical work for us, and he's like saying, you could build a really, really good gaming PC for like $1,700 now.
Yep.
And it which is great, and I'm just like, why would I ever buy a console at this point? I wouldn't mind these exclusive games, but why would I bother? And so it's just kind of sad that I'm definitely going to watch people play these games. But I just, I'm never going to spend money towards it, because why? Why would I do that? Yeah,
okay, so here's where I line up, because everybody knows that I'm, a huge Resident Evil fan, a huge mark. I love Capcom as a company. I think that they very seldomly do wrong, and every time they do wrong, they get raked over the coals for it. Sure. But I think overall they're a great company. When they're making all of these remakes, the Resident Evil 2 remake and 3 remake and now 4, what's coming out is that there's an update, there's a different kind of gameplay, and the story's being updated slightly. But ultimately, that gameplay is the style of gameplay that people are falling in love with, and now they're free to do the experimental stuff. Because Resident Evil has always been experimental. They had like light gun games, they had these, top-down classic, survival horror games, and then they had action-y ones, and like the first game was meant to be an action-y one, they just didn't have the technology for it. So they've always kind of like, been pushing the boundaries with the series, and I like that they have like 3 series going on at any time. But I really hope that the next over-the-shoulder game that they make that is like one of the remakes isn't a remake. I hope that they stop at 4.
Yeah.
I hope they get their bag for 4, because everybody loves Resident Evil 4, so they're going to get money for that. I hope that they just start making those games original games after that point.
Yeah, and I have not seen the Resident Evil reveals or drops or whatever they are yet, but I really liked 7. 8 was very fun, and I agree with you. I think all the new Resident Evil stuff coming out has been interesting, and again, I did not really see much of the originals, 1, 2, and 3. I had like one friend who played 2 or something with me for like a day. So seeing people replay them, especially people who grew up with them, was really fun. And it's interesting to see all this stuff and kind of like, oh, that's what all this is about.
Well, it's also interesting because the stuff that they're doing, even though they're remaking it and keeping stuff like really bizarrely accurate at points, they are still taking artistic liberty, and the games still play completely different than the originals did. There's enough artistic liberties there and enough updating of the source material that it feels like they're doing something new and fresh. And it looks like they're doing something even more new and fresh with Resident Evil 4. So how at the beginning of Resident Evil 4 you go through, and then there's the dog in the bear trap, right?
Yeah.
and you have to like go open the bear trap to let the dog out. And there's a little bit of tension there because it's just like, all right, there are zombies here. Is this like a zombie dog that got like stuck in a trap? And there's like this moral dilemma. And then like, you know, everybody loves that dog because you let it out and then it goes and helps and saves somebody later. It helps you fight an enemy later in the game, right?
Yeah.
Here's what they're doing with Resident Evil 4. And I was just like, man, I hope that they like subvert more stuff than they did in the past. I hope that they play this game straight and there's like no twist. And then like halfway through, the game is just completely different. I hope that they do something really mind bending, and maybe they will. But they've already announced that that dog in the trap is already dead by the time you get there in this version. So that's kind of interesting. That's kind of like the beginning of the trailhead of like, okay, they're going to play with our expectations a little bit here. If not a little bit, hopefully a lot.
Sure. And I don't know, 4 is I think is the most entertaining one for me. And I've rewatched Let's Plays of it just because it's so. I think it strikes a very good balance between actual oh shit help zombies and just interesting set pieces. So I'm very excited to see what they do with 4.
I enjoy every character in 4. I enjoy all the villains. I enjoy all the gameplay. There's really not a dull part of that game. I think it's paced out perfectly.
Yeah, me too.
And so I'm hoping that they play with that and continue it because the game looks insanely detailed. Like that, sure. The engine they're building it in. I'm not the hugest graphics guy in the world, but they really do make it seem very immersive. Everything has a nice weight to it. I'm just excited for it.
Slight tangent, because I do want to talk about Silent Hill, but
slight tangent here for ending up in Silent Hill.
Last of Us is getting remade already?
Yeah, no clue. The first game is so beautiful already. It's just nonsense. It already kind of got remade because it was for the PS3 and then they remade it for the PS4 and updated the graphics. For them to update it for the PS5 is so asinine.
And like, what is it? The past 3 generations of consoles or something are sold at a loss anyway. So why dump unnecessary amounts of money on top of unnecessary amounts of money? I don't understand it. Last
of Us 2 was already controversial enough for having a game, spoilers, but I'm sure everybody knows, a game where it's just like violence, and then you get to the end of the game and the one person you're seeking revenge on, you're just like, I'm not going to kill you. It's like, you killed thousands of people to get here. Shut up.
How horribly badly, and
just...
It's Last of Us 2 is like Star Trek. It's the Star Trek Discovery of that franchise, wherein it takes 1,000 episodes for people to go, man, war is bad, isn't it? Thank you.
You know, every episode of Next Generation, it's just like Picard would speak and he's like, war is bad. Now that we understand that, let me try and like prevent a war. Like it was really upfront with this. And
and it's just, I guess I prefer the episodic Star Trek because they would have episodes of, hey, war is bad, but they would have episodes of like, hey, discrimination is bad. Hey, ruining the ecology of a planet is bad. You can discover and look at other things, whereas you just have things like Last of Us 2, where it's just, look how bad all this violence is. Do you feel bad about it yet? Like, I'm not the character, I'm the player, and frankly I'm kind of just getting bored because yes, I get it, thank you, but also video game players will go and play like Doom, where you destroy demons in hyper violent ways for fun. So like, number one, the message is not lost on your player, but you're also kind of overstaying your welcome in that case.
That's what games like Metal Gear Solid do so well, is they give you so many fun pacifist options to not kill people that there's a gameplay incentive to not kill people. It's not even a matter of like, you beat the game on a pacifist run or whatever and you get the little achievement for it, which is like one thing. There is like gameplay incentive, like, oh my god, I like made this guy pass out with Groucho Marx pass out cigarette smoke. Like, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
There's an actual reason to it. And the comedy of Metal Gear Solid really just drives home the pacifist message better than the story does.
Mm-hmm. And, I remember in the first BioShock, you like, and granted, you killed tons of people, but also they were literally attacking you. So it's like, okay, I get it. But when you're saving the little sisters, you can choose: do you save them or do you harvest them to make your character more powerful? And of course, your ending changes there. And I think that's a great way of doing it. Like, where it matters, choose whether you are going to kill someone or not. But yeah, if you spend an entire game just horrifically murdering people and then trying to say something about violence, it's like, what do you think you can possibly say to me? I know I'm not a psychopath.
Well, in BioShock too, I've seen criticisms pointed out of that, of like, yeah, but you get benefits whether you harvest them or don't harvest them. And It's just like, yeah, but you didn't know that the first time you played it. So it's like, you actually are making that choice. It goes back to the dog thing in Resident Evil 4, where it's like, the first time you play that, it's like, oh shit, that dog looks angry and in pain. Like, is that dog infected? This is a Resident Evil game. Is that dog infected?
And I really like how Red Dead Redemption, the first one, because I haven't played the second one. The second one probably did this too. But like the first one, there's so many not even like side quests, but just things that happen that you can choose to interact with or not. And it's typically saving somebody. It's typically going out of your way to prevent death. Or if you have to, you're shooting someone who's clearly the criminal here, and like saving a random prostitute, or someone's like tied up and being dragged behind a horse. And I remember when I did those, like, if I didn't catch them on accident because I was just like going too fast, I was like, oh shoot, I wish I could have done something, because it does actually feel gratifying to be the good guy in the situation. And that is so much of a more effective, like, make you think about violence and helping people and your place in the world than like having you slaughter 1,000 people, but at the end of a video game going like, well, maybe you don't want to kill this person.
And what you're talking about there is sort of the biggest thing that people are running into with online discussions about like politics and that kind of stuff. I think you and me and a lot of people our age are just very apathetic to all of that stuff, and like don't get caught up in it anymore, because we just don't really see the point. And I think that that's being played out in certain media really well, of just like, do you choose? It's less a choice of like, left or right or something like that. It's more a choice of like being apathetic, like we generally are, or seeing a reason to get involved. Well, that's a hard discussion to have.
It is. And it's, we definitely left the left-right paradigm. And it's more, do I bother? Because so much of our choice is an illusion and it's been taken away from us. And video games are definitely a way to explore, well, what if you did have the choice? Here, you do have it. And that is a very, again, gratifying thing to do. It's probably why, you can call video games mindless escapism all you want, but especially horror, it's a way to look at the things that scare you in the world and to process them in a fictional environment. And it's, if you really want to reach people, maybe listen to video games.
Well, that ties into the whole thing where people are talking about, should this game have politics in it? I don't want politics in my game and that kind of stuff. And that's so very rarely actually the issue when people say that. They're just not articulating that, like, no, I just don't want you to hit me over the head with violence is a bad thing after making a game that is inherently violent. And that's different.
I saw a retrospective on Five Nights at Freddy's, and I kind of just like found the channel, and I would put it on during work, because I had just I think back in like March or something, I just had long stints of just doing tons and tons of hours, so I just needed stuff in the background. And he got to one of the more recent games when the controversy about Scott Cawthon's political spending came out.
Oh yeah.
And he said, I saw a lot of comments about saying like, oh man, I don't want this to be touched on because I don't want politics injected into my game. And Five Nights at Freddy's, for the most part, is almost a political game. Like, there's definitely stuff in there, but for the most part, it's not really obvious.
Well, with anything, you can have a conversation about politics. You can extrapolate that, like, Pac-Man is about consumerism or something. Like, you can do that. The question is, was it intended? And I don't think Five Nights at Freddy's was intended as any sort of you can make your argument, but it just clearly wasn't the authorial intent.
Well, and what I like about the dude's response, he said, yeah, that's nice. We don't live in that world anymore. Sorry, everything is hyper politicized. There is a microscope on absolutely everything because of social media and how globally connected everything is via information. And he didn't go like super into applying a political analysis or argument to the game, but he says, I do have to talk about this. This is part of our lives now. So you really choose how much you would like to inject into it, how much you want to discuss. And there are games that are overtly political and
For sure.
to ask the questions. And some of them are really, really good.
And some of them are really, really bad.
And some of them are really, really boring and trite and stupid. So, it's, I don't know,
Well, if you look at Five Nights at Freddy's and the whole Scott Cawthon thing, it was weird to me that, like, his Politico donations come out and everybody knows that he is the way he is. And they chose to be offended about it at that point, which was just like a very weird line in the sand. And it's like, okay, let's be clear. He skirted around a bunch of ESRB ratings to get very disturbing video games into the hands of kids, which I don't think is a giant issue. Like, I think both of us were, exposed to horrific things, horrific content as kids.
Oh, yeah.
But the fact that a lot of parents weren't informed on, should this kid be able to handle this or not? Your kids.
Or you should.
Or you should. So there is that question of like, okay, was he putting adult content into the hands of kids? That wasn't a line in the sand for a lot of people, but giving political donations to somebody you disagree with is kind of weird. It's like, what it really boils down to like your pet issues or whether Twitter can, muster up the energy to create a hate mob or what. It's just weird.
I think for a lot of people it was, and this is growing up you have to do. For a lot of people,
we should have gotten drunk. This was a mistake. We're being too serious.
Well, okay.
Slimebeast isn't here. This really should have been like the episode that is just slurring our speech.
Slimebeast is in the pizza sleep right now. Hopefully he'll be around later. But I think the problem is so many people they held Scott Cawthon up.
New lore. He can't get to sleep every night, so he just eats a pizza and the carbs just make him pass out. I think it's for a lot of people, younger people, Scott Cawthon was an icon. He was very involved in the community. He okayed a lot of fan games. He would pop into people's charity streams and donate money. And then, their hero was not perfect. And that was a moment of, unsettling, disturbing reality for them. And so they just got really angry. And I'm older and, I've been to Comic-Con 100 times and I just got kind of tired of being like, why do I care so much about the people involved in these things? The art is what really matters. Of course, that's, it's not black and white like that all the time, but largely don't meet your heroes unless it's Slimebeast. And I think just a lot of people had growing up to do. And that was just a watershed moment of, oh my God, the person who made the thing's not perfect. And now I have to question everything I believe because I love this so much. And that's a conversation people need to have with themselves. So, that's the thing that I had to, deal with and contend with too, is just don't meet your heroes. You'll find out that they can't be fucked to wake up before noon. If anybody is wondering why there's two people today.
Oh my God.
No, in all sincerity, it has been nice, just knowing that, the way Slimebeast portrays himself on the internet is who he is.
Brutally honest.
Brutally
honest and upfront.
He's upfront with all of his flaws as a human being, and he's all of the every time he gets involved in something and comes to somebody's defense or points out somebody abusing people, it's literally just out of the kindness of his heart.
Yeah, a concern for the community.
A concern, yeah.
Yeah, that's, and no one has to do that. We could completely distance ourselves from everyone involved and still read horror stories on the internet. So it's definitely a choice, but a noble one, I think.
Well, it is also interesting that we were talking about, how much do you want to get involved in social issues and politics like that?
Mm-hmm.
And, for the most part, I've drawn my line in the sand of like, I'm just not going to talk about it because people aren't necessarily going to be convinced by what I have to say, except for in small circumstances. And one thing that I have noticed people doing, like the term incel is back in nomenclature and it's going around as an insult again. And people are starting to question, people who traditionally would call people incels as an insult are starting to question of like, hey, are men focused, like suffering from emotional neglect? And like we've had people in our Discord calling people incels, and I just have to like stop and say like, listen, I'm not going to ban you for saying that. You're looking at a person who is suffering, who wants to have human contact, who wants to have sex and can't. You have to understand that that's like painful for them, right? Like, why are you pointing that out? It'd be like, pointing out, like, hey, you're fat. Like we've decided it's socially not acceptable to call somebody fat. If they're fat, they know they're fat and they're painfully aware of it and just don't necessarily know the way to solve it. If they want to lose weight, they don't know how to solve that. It's like a difficult issue.
Yeah.
These people have been, emotionally neglected and like don't have that support system that you and I have. We're very lucky to have found people so early in life that we're in committed relationships with, which is why I only brag about having a great partner once a year. Because I just don't want to rub that in people's faces. And I'm just considerate of that. And I'm just, like, why aren't you considerate of that?
Well, I don't know if you listen to ContraPoints, but she had an entire episode dedicated to incels. And the biggest thing that she talked about and the core of what she did in that video was actually try to understand people in the incel community, like do a deep dive and not just to like make a cringe compilation or to ridicule them, actually listen and, try to understand and meet them where they are. And she said, like, most people don't bother with that step at all. And you are never going to help people or connect with people if you can't do that first step. And I think that's kind of where I'm at as well. I don't really, I'm not discussing politics on the internet, and not even like as we're doing right now, but like actually saying this is my belief and this is why. Like, you're not convincing people if you're talking on the internet. It is not a place where people actually want to be convinced. So don't fucking bother. But
it always blows my mind when you see a bumper sticker that's just like vote for whomever, and it's just like who just ask yourself, have you ever been convinced by a bumper sticker
or a sign in someone's yard, or a text message that I cannot fucking get rid of? They keep coming. No. And, but like actually having conversations with family members has changed their minds, because that's an actual place where they are open to learning something or discussing something at the very least. And that does not happen on the internet, but people will make it their fucking crusades in life to just dedicate their online presence to that. And like you're talking to an echo chamber or you're talking to a brick wall, and that's not going to change anything.
No, absolutely not. And, I think that people are missing out on that, and also missing out that, these discussions aren't necessarily as real as you think they are. Like, there's this whole thing about like Elon Musk trying to like, find out how many bots are on Twitter, and Twitter saying that it's like 10%. And it's just like, nah, that's 100%. That's not remotely true. Like everybody has had the experience of just posting a very inane political opinion and then just getting first name, bunch of numbers responding. And it's just like, you're a bot farm in China. Like there's no other. I hope you're making good money, but you are not a real human being. You are a talking mouthpiece. Yeah, paid to do this, to sow conflict in America. Like, I'm not engaging with that.
No. Speaking of conflict in America, Silent Hill.
just going to come out and say it. I have never wanted a remake of any of those games.
No.
Okay, here's the best case scenario. Brampton here for DePrampton here. Get rid of Konami. Sell the rights off to a different company. They're not going to. If some other company was in charge of it, I would ethically be okay with playing it, even if it was bad. This is going to be mediocre and it's made by an evil company.
I'm very cautiously optimistic simply because like they did give it out to a different studio who's a bit more like they seem a bit more passionate about their work and they don't want to fuck it up. We will see, because who knows how much Konami meddling there will be. Who knows? I do agree that 2 never needs to be remade because it's like a perfect fucking video game, just about as close as you can get. And I just wish it was available like on PC to play. That would be nice for me because I'm not going to buy a PS5. But things I took away, there's 2 major things. Number 1, Resident Evil, Silent Hill F, which I guess is like a reference to the other tie-in, which is like Townfall or something. It looks like the musical notation for Forte, which just means loud. It probably isn't, but I saw that and went, why are we going to get Silent Hill loud? That doesn't make any sense. And then on the Too Spooky Discord, there was me, Mob, Emily, some other people, and Mob said, oh no, they're just going to put out Loud Valley. And I'm like, wait, that's the inverse of Silent Hill. Quick, we need to make Loud Valley a video game. And we came up with this hilarious concept of like just the inverse of Silent Hill. So you like, instead of an obscuring fog, you're like in a desert town and there's just a haze of mirage that obscures everything. There's no subtlety or symbolism. There's just like you walk by a store and it has a sign that says you're sexually frustrated and that's a problem. Instead of Pyramid Head, it's just a Valley Girl. It was fucking great. And I would play that game even quicker than all of these Silent Hill new games coming out. Give us Loud Valley. Oh,
it would just turn into They Live. You're just describing They Live.
Pretty much. The other big thing was it not Transmission, Ascension or something, whatever. Silent Hill : whatever. It's the one where I think it's a TV show or something. Maybe it's an ARG, but basically the story and the character actions are going to be affected by audience participation, which is a giant red flag. I'm like, oh no, do not give the internet, license to do this. It's not going to turn out well. Imagine Twitch chat like determining a fucking Silent Hill game. That's what it's going to be. And the second red flag is Behavior Interactive is helping. I'm just like, no, they can't do their own game well. Don't give them this. They can't split their resources anymore. Stop.
It's okay. So I again, we were talking about like, should you just make an original game? Mm-hmm. If you say inspired by Silent Hill, you get the same effect, and you're tied down with a lot less baggage. And it's just weird as like a Silent Hill lore nerd to see them continuing to make Silent Hill games. It's just like, let the series die. Like, respectfully, there really is, especially the remake. I just don't understand what you gain by remaking Silent Hill 2. It's money.
That's it.
Well, we'll even see if it makes money. Like, I'm sure they're going to invest a lot of money in advertising. I kind of don't think it sells as well as they think that it will. I think they're going to try. They're going to try and push as hard as they can to get people in the doors to play that game, and I just don't think it's going to pay off the way they think it will.
I don't know. Yeah, ever since they canceled PT and shuttered Silent Hills, which even then, that could probably be the last game in the series. That I would have been fine with that. Ever since that, I was just like, cautiously optimistic.
PT had people interested, not because it was Silent Hill.
Sure.
That's a giant misnomer. PT was interesting because it was a big budget version of the indie concept of like a walking simulator that's scary. It was a big budget version of that and showed what it could be. And out of PT, we got The Beginning Hour and we got Resident Evil 7, which were both excellent. They took that ball and ran with it. Konami fumbled the ball and Capcom is just like, we're here, we're picking it up, we're running the other direction, and you can suck our dick. And they did a great job with it. The question is, is the magic there? The things that Hideo Kojima was going to bring to that game have already been brought to Death Stranding and things like that. Like he had something unique to say about Silent Hill. It wasn't that Silent Hill itself was really going to be in there, or was going to be like, there's this discussion of like, would a Silent Hills be a true Silent Hill game? I am firmly of the opinion that it would have nothing to do with Silent Hill and that he was just going to do whatever he wanted.
Probably, yeah. And it had Guillermo del Toro behind it as well. Like a very, very strong creative personalities. Very, very strong. And that would have been nice to see. I guess we got it technically in Death Stranding, but,
And Death Stranding, from what I understand, I haven't played it, is like a lot more optimistic than Silent Hill was looking.
Yeah, again, like I don't know, even if I had a console to play it, it might be on PC, who the fuck knows. What I hear about Death Stranding is, no, it is actually a very good game, but I don't expect anybody to play it because you do have to put in 40 hours before it gets good. And that's not a conscionable ask of people right now, of people with fucking day jobs and, lives to live. Not all of us can do that. I
can see in the twilight of my life, like, footage of a video game where somebody's just walking around and being like, okay, I kind of want to play that, but I'm not there right now. And I think the whole like putting 40 hours into a video game is a difficult sell if it's multiplayer. If it's single player and it takes 40 hours to get good, nah, you should have put some more grit up front for me to appreciate this.
And it's not even 40 hours of like turn your brain off AFK style. It's like, no, you have to actively be balancing. You have to actively be monitoring all these things. Like it's very much a statement art piece by Hideo Kojima. But again, I'm not going to play it. Sorry.
It's one of those. I am not a hater of Death Stranding, but I saw it and I'm just like, I'm happy that they let him do whatever he wants to do. That's cool.
Yeah. I'm glad it exists. That's it.
I'm glad that it has like monster in it. That's funny. That makes me chuckle. I like all the Mountain Dew ads and Dorito ads in Peace Walker. That's funny. I like this. It's like Ratatouille. It's like, oh my god, there's ads for actual products, and then it's the zoop back and forth between present time and the reviewer as a kid in Ratatouille. It is just weird though. I for all the people out there that play Resident Evil Silent Hill 2 remake for the first time and that's their first experience with it, I hope that it's accurate. If it's painfully inaccurate, then I'm going to be very upset that that experience has been robbed from people.
Yeah, and like,
because how many people played the re-release of the HD collection that fucked up the game backwards and forwards, and they were just like, this game is buggy as shit. What the fuck? And it's just like, I promise you, it was a finished game.
Well, and at this point too, even if I had the console, I wouldn't really feel encouraged to play it because I know the story and it's amazing and it's beautiful. Would me playing it really confer anything new to me? Maybe. Like I would be playing the mechanics and then I'd be running and dodging things, but it's like the lasting impression of Silent Hill 2 for me is like the story and the music and things that you don't necessarily need to play it to get. So why would I buy it again?
I understand where you're coming from. I think that obviously you are missing something. You are missing the mechanics, and the mechanics are fun. Like, it is a genuinely fun game.
Sure.
If you watch speed runs of it, it's pretty cool. So like there is a lot of stuff to glean from that. Resident Evil, Silent Hill 3 is extremely fun to play. Like there are so many little things where like you actually doing it, like especially going through the haunted mansion, is just really fun and funny and like engaging. There's the elements where you're like doing the quiz show in the elevators. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
That's really fun to do with the actual controller or like a group of friends around you. It is just frustrating that, these games are being released, and I don't want to rain on somebody's parade. It's kind of my thing, which is why I haven't like been bitching about it on Twitter a lot.
Right.
But like, I do just want to, anybody in my life within my voice, please just play the original first. I'm begging you.
If you can.
If you can. And I get that it's, not necessarily easy. Like, you have to either download a ROM for a PS2 or have something that can play the PS2 physical disc, and the games are getting more expensive because they're not re-releasing them, which is in upon itself. Hey,
yes.
Just we'll give you free money for just re-releasing the games as they existed. Did you throw away the source copies of the game? Maybe that should be your fucking issue.
Well, I remember like an article of someone coming out who like worked for not necessarily that studio, but for studios of that time, and they said, "Oh no, they would straight up just lose stuff, like or delete it to like save space. Like it's some of that
throw away voice contracts,
or it's just gone." And it's like, Jesus Christ, this is why we need games preservation.
Well, man, don't get me started on that. I was having a Twitter argument with people about Overwatch 1 and them arguing that Overwatch 2 isn't a sequel. It's just the continuation. And it's just like the company put a 2 in the title and changed the gameplay. What
is different, really?
What is different? They should have preserved Overwatch 1. They should just preserve the game as it was meant to be played. And I have to hand
it to Blizzard. They're the first studio to ever release a .05 release of a game and call it 2. It's really impressive.
It's brutally hilarious that Torbjorn and Bastion aren't currently working. So the game launched with one new hero, and Net has one new hero.
This is the studio that made Diablo 2, which I bought like 7 times because I kept losing the disc or they got scratched or something. But I kept buying that game because it was just so fucking fun.
Before I forget, it is worth mentioning that, like, again, it's important to note Silent Hill 2 and 3, very expensive games to buy, not very accessible, not being re-released, hard to play in their original condition. The version of Silent Hill 2 that's being remade and released will be easily accessible.
True.
That is a problem. That is just like, if their announcement literally came with, we're doing we acknowledge the mistakes of the past, we're re-releasing Resident Evil 1, 2, 3, and 4 as an HD collection. It's going to be $50. We promise it's going to be good. We're reverse engineering the games off of the disc. Here you go. I would have way less of a problem with it, but we're just getting this new version of the game without a way for consumers to actually play the original games. And that's just...
It's the Nintendo approach of, you want to play Mario 64 again on the Switch? $60.
I hate it. And then, but on the whole Overwatch thing, it is just insane. People will argue until they're blue in the face of like, it's not a sequel. And it's like, okay, they reworked every character into 5v5. They took out like major parts of people's kits. Like Sombra is now a damage hero because remember, we have this role queue. So every character has to fall in line with their role. And if you pick Sombra, then you're automatically like cutting down on the amount of damage that you can do. So her espionage elements have to go down and her damage elements have to go up. So like the thing that made her unique has to be lessened, and the thing that makes her fall in line has to be like built up. You see what I'm saying? Like that's an issue.
Yeah,
like,
no, I mean,
these characters were not meant as roles. They were meant as characters to flesh out a team and come up with a cool, composition. And it's frustrating. I miss that game so much. My favorite game of all time, I will never be able to play again. And people will tell me, no, it's the same thing. It's like,
it's less.
It's less.
It's a lesser build somehow.
It's just insane to look at Reinhardt, who used to have a 200 health shield, and now he has like a 1200 health shield. And it's like, okay, at a certain point, you're not nerfing and buffing the character. The character is different fundamentally. You know what I mean? Like, that's not the same thing anymore.
It's so hard to find a multiplayer game that is worth my time and also isn't being run into the ground. Like, I just don't have any anymore. And that's probably just me getting older and not having as much time on my hands to really invest. But I'm also looking around going like, there's just nothing fun. I don't get it. What's happening?
It is baffling how little online games are good right now. Yeah. That donkey bit is so goddamn funny and so goddamn true.
Beautiful.
Where he's saying the line that, and it was like a year ago that he said it, of like, you want to know how bad games are right now? People are playing Valorant. That is that is hilarious. And no hate on Valorant, but it's hilarious that people are just like, you want to know how bad Overwatch is? People are playing Valorant instead. And that just kills me. It's like, yeah, you have to look around the room. And it's funny, too. I give everybody this advice who is enjoying Overwatch 2. Get it while it's here, boy, because all the hype don't sound the same next year, boy. That's Drake talking about Overwatch 2. The hype is here right now. It's not going to be, I promise you. People are like, oh no, it's Activision Blizzard. They're going to invest a lot of money and energy.
Oh,
and it's just like,
sure.
Sure, yeah, the same money and energy they invested into Overwatch 1. How does that work out?
Never mind. I think they're getting bought out by Microsoft anyway, unless that fell through.
No, I think that deal is still ongoing. And the reason that they're releasing Overwatch in the state that they are, Overwatch 2 in the state that it is because they need to get some money on the board.
Yeah.
And I promise you, they don't have long-term investment in mind in this game. No matter what you think, they really don't.
It's like so many things right now. It's becoming being like video game industry, I guess, especially for multiplayer. It's becoming so stratified. You get these games as a live service, multiplayer things, and there's a few that can occupy the space because everything else just turns into abandonware because it's so make or break. And everyone wants League of Legends money and fame, but League of Legends, like, you can unless you're playing Teamfight Tactics, you can't play casually anymore. Like, I cannot just load in unless it's ARAM, but I want friends for that anyway. I can't just casually play that game anymore because it's a fucking second job to keep up with all of the patch notes and all the changes. And on the one hand, that's cool that a game it's so deep and you can play a character 17 different ways, even outside of what it's quote unquote intended to be. But the community is so fucking aggravating that you can't just load into a game and play and then like exit. So what do you have other than that? Play Among Us and Fall Guys. And there's nothing in between that's like serviceable.
And that's the thing is that's what I'm trying to get through to people when I'm like talking about the death of Overwatch 1 is Overwatch was that game for everyone. It was, I promise you. It had what it was like 40 million, 60 million downloads or something like that. And its monthly active users was, I can't remember, I'm pulling a number out of my ass, but it was something like 10 million people playing every month.
Yeah.
And what people don't get is those people that played that didn't play Overwatch a whole lot. They would play it once, twice a month, maybe once a week, something like that. They didn't treat it as a job. It was just the game that everybody could play. Like your Call of Duty people could play it. Your Smash Brothers people can play it. I went to a fighting game convention the weekend after Overwatch came out. Everybody at the fighting game convention was talking about Overwatch. It was the party game. And people would say like, well, the competitive scene killed it. And that's a misnomer because the competitive scene came out. People saw people who had, 6-figure jobs playing Overwatch all day, a team of 6 people drilling it together with 2 head coaches and a team of chefs, like making sure that these man children just got good and coordinated. And the people who casually play the game watched these highly coordinated, skilled players and were like, oh, that's cool. Maybe I could pick up this or that. And then got disappointed when the 5 random people that they queued up with didn't have the same amount of coordination. Oh, shit. Most people could understand this. Most people don't watch MMA and say, oh, I know how to like guillotine.
I can do that.
I can do that. Most people don't do that, but the small group of people that did made the game toxic, and they just fucking complained, and they made videos, and they're like, hey, welcome back to YouTube channel with Overwatch in the title for SEO optimization. Today we're going to talk about how everything is my teammates' fault and nothing is ever my fault. Yeah. I'm an expert in this. And it just like drove these toxic people to be very loud, and then Blizzard listened to them. That's the issue. Oh, competitive didn't kill Overwatch. People with Dunning-Kruger effect who thought they knew about competitive killed Overwatch.
Well, and you can say that about like any multiplayer game right now that has any like market share at all. But
that's the thing that you're talking about with League of Legends. Like it started out something, but like people just can't keep up with it. And that competitive side ate into the casual side. And League of Legends was designed as a more competitive experience.
It was.
Overwatch wasn't even that at launch. It's so
that's what I was going to say is like the best thing I can say about Overwatch 1. And I was a casual player. I did not play it every day.
But you played it with me like once a month and we had fun and
I played it. Yeah. I played it with Paprika now and then. I went in on my own. And the nice thing is you literally could just drop in for a couple matches and turn it off. And it was a very streamlined experience. And I never felt like super aggravated about it. I didn't because I didn't have to put so much into it. It was very easy to drop in and drop out. And you cannot get that with anything anymore. It's Dead by Daylight fucking hell, has it is majority casual players, like 100%. Yes, there are a lot of streamers. There is tournaments now, but like the majority of people make up this giant swath. Like 95% of the MMR are average to below average players because they're casual, because it's a deep game, and you're just popping in to play it a bit. And that's how it started out. It did not start out as being a competitive game at all. But now behavior is struggling to balance around the fact of like, we're trying to make it more competitive and more balanced. It's a 4v1 party game, dude. Just make it interesting. You don't have to make it great. And if you want to make it great and tight and competitive, you got to overhaul this shit because it's not built on that. And it's just like right now I'm playing like one game a week and then I'm taking a 3-month hiatus. That's how fucking bored I am with the game. And it sucks because that's the last multiplayer game I had outside of like private servers I have where me and my friends play Conan Exiles, and I don't have to play with anyone I don't know. So what the fuck do we have left at this point?
Splatoon 3, like that's like it's so frustrating that things are so sparse, and it's like you want to be able to play multiple games, but like I want to be able to play Valorant, but I can't because I play Siege, and like the skills on those two games are so different that like you pick up bad habits for the other one. So I just have to play Siege, but then like Valorant drops a new character and I'm like, oh, she's so cool, oh, you're so handsome, and like, hey, but like I can't actually play the game because it's just a toxic shit fest that ends up oh my god, you fucking suck at this game. It's like, yeah, well, I haven't played it in a year. I queued up. I'm sorry, it's my fault.
And that's like an annoying thing too, is like because they keep putting in these MMR systems that are just very, very inaccurate. There's no way for those systems to tell between someone who dropped the game for a month and people who play 5 times a day, every day.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that because at the launch of Overwatch, we found out after the fact that Jeff Kaplan, who was in charge at the time of Overwatch, was just like, what I'm advocating is that the competitive mode has to be a 6 stack. You have to queue up with 6 people, you being one of them, and form your team and go in. And that's what he was arguing for, because that is the only way you can accurately measure team skill. You can't just measure individual skill because there's so many extraneous factors that go into that. And people come out of it saying, rank is a scam and all of this stuff. And they're kind of right, because it's just like, how is the game supposed to accurately measure that off of just wins and losses alone? There are so many external factors. You have to build up your team and then have an agreement with your team about what your goals are. And the goals for every team is, I want to get to Diamond, I want to be a pro, and that's just not realistic.
No. And that's
it's so insane that in streams people will say plant chat. It's like, that is above the average player rank. That's so asinine for people to say, like, oh, you have an opinion that's well above the average median player. Shut the fuck up. You don't know what you're talking about.
I would love for that to be the ranked mode for Dead by Daylight, because the biggest argument against a rank mode right now is queue times, because the MMR is so shit in that game because it's built off of a fucking binary that they're constantly trying to tweak it, because you have people at high MMR waiting for a long time. And then the people are like, everyone's playing Killer because a new Killer just came out and Survivor takes forever. Or if it's the other, like depending on the state of the game and the meta.
Yeah.
And people are saying like, well, if you have a ranked mode and only Swifts, which are, a group of people playing together, if you only have that, it's going to take like 5, 10, 15-minute queues. And no one wants to sit through that. And no, casual players don't want to sit through that. Tryhards who sweat would love to sit through that, because they are psychopaths who want to like break this game and want to bully killers, and then vice versa. Like a killer wants to like slug everybody and just let them bleed out for 15 minutes and then win. Like, fine, put all of those people into a ranked mode. I would love that. And then the rest of us can just play the game. And people just don't want to sit through that. They don't want to waste time, which isn't, and that's fair. But that's how it kind of has to be. You need to put all the competitive people with the competitive people. That's it.
And here's a discussion that's important too, is every game out there, if it has a competitive mode, it should have ranked, unranked, which is the same thing. It just doesn't rank you.
Yeah.
And then casual. That way you have a casual mode where the casuals are safe from the tryhards. You have the rank mode where the tryhards are safe from the casuals, and then you have an unranked mode where they can meet each other and like compromise.
Yeah.
And most games have that. Overwatch, for whatever reason, was just really resistant to it. And that's why you would get people saying, like, it's only quick play and people getting triggered about that. And then vice versa, like people coming into the competitive mode that refuse to communicate with their team. And it's like, if you have 3 modes, then that's not an issue.
Yeah. And then it really is up to the player. Like, you know what mode you selected, dude. Like, you only have yourself to blame. Oh, man.
It's a sorry state of gaming. It is. And it's frustrating because I can't tell anybody to start playing Rainbow Six Siege because I know how difficult it is to learn, and it's a niche game too, because it's just like you're trying to tell people like, hey, this game's really fun. There's a lot of cool things you can do, and they're like, man, I don't know. It seems like really tactical, and I'm like, no. So hold on. You have one team that is a SWAT team, and they need to go into a building, and their job is to defuse these bombs in the building. The other team is just playing home renovation. They have shotguns. And the whole thing is it's like one of those HGTV shows where you have 2 people trying to flip a house in different ways, and they're just like, listen, you need to knock out this wall. We're going to go open concept. That way there's long lines of sight. It's like one team is trying to redecorate the home one way, and then the other team is trying to redecorate the home another way, and that's how you should think of it. But I can't get anyone to play it because there is such a learning curve.
And like that is so many games too that, again, the only ones that have any type of market share, they have a level of complexity. And like, I keep thinking about this because I know I'm just getting older, but I also have to think, are we not like the demographic that, you know, we grew up with video games and a lot of generations did, but especially us, you know, we're the ones that really like to play and will spend our disposable income on it. But we have day jobs, we have lives, we have a lot of other obligations, so we can't play a ton of games all the time. So that leaves high schoolers, maybe college students, and people younger who, you know, yeah, they'll play a little bit less when they're back in school, but they will play more games. Are they the ones really playing these types of games, though? Are they like playing Among Us? They're playing more casual shit that isn't so intense. Because if that's true, then the video game industry is really failing to market to its core demographic.
Well, there's also the question of patience and tolerance for learning a game.
Sure.
And so there's that question too, where if you really I haven't played it, but like you really don't need to know anything about Fortnite to drop in and have fun with Fortnite.
Right.
That's not my cup of tea, but that's something that the younger generations like. And there is that confirmation bias. If like you die and you're one of the 100 people that die, you immediately queue up and you get thrown into another game of 100 people.
Yeah.
Whereas, are you going to have this highly curated experience where it's, an entire team that queues up together versus another team and sweats it out and actually tries to learn the game? That's a difficult question. And that's why I mourn the loss of Overwatch so deeply, because people are having fun with the game right now because Overwatch 2 is new and fresh and people haven't figured out the meta yet. But guess what? Even as of right now, recording this 2 weeks into the game being released, people are starting to figure out the meta, and it's starting to get toxic again. And the underlying issues that caused Overwatch 1 to die and dwindle its player numbers are still present in Overwatch 2. You just can't see them yet. They're going to come back and bite you in the ass. The same people saying like, no, I'm not going to switch my character. And that other person on the team saying, no, we're going to run this strategy specifically. And if you're not playing along, I'm going to report you. Those two teammates on either side of your ear, they didn't go away.
No.
You went away because of them, and you're coming back, and you're going to realize real soon that these annoying pieces of shit are in control of the game. They have the developers in their pocket, and they don't give a shit about you. They got their $10 battle pass out of you. They don't fucking care.
No, yeah. And I forget what game it was, but I found a new one. This was like a couple years ago, and it had been out for like maybe 3 months or something. I popped in and I tried playing, and someone had already like discovered and explored the entirety of the meta. And I had those exact people because it was like multiplayer only. And they were like, you have to do this, 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 is this. And I'm like, wait, so I'm new and I don't have everything unlocked and I'm just trying to figure these things out. Oh, well, like, and they weren't rude about it, but like they clearly communicated to me, this is, you know, we've done the work for you. Now do it. Don't explore a game. Don't learn a game. Don't even go through the learning curve. This is what you need to do.
Abysmii, I need you to stop criticizing how I tell people to play how I tell people to play Siege, because this is what I do. It's funny too, because like there's like 2 bomb sites, right? And what'll happen is just like you'll get a new person who tries, like there's reinforcements where you have drywall and you can shoot through the drywall. So if you're defending, you need to like put up a metal sheet against that drywall. That way it's bulletproof. Yeah. And like if somebody puts the bulletproof thing between the 2 sites, you just got to shoot them in the legs of like, don't you fucking do that.
Yeah. Well, that's but like, and that's not necessarily like, I don't blame people for getting into a game and learning it and mastering it. Like obviously that's the point for some people. But because of how interconnected everyone is and like how just trading information is, that's going to happen to any multiplayer game. People are going to sweat it out. They're going to learn everything. I've watched streamers who do this. They literally dissect Dead by Daylight. They know everything, and it's cool to watch them. But fuck, dude, like I feel bad for new people getting into the game who just, you know, they're going to be told right out the gate, don't bother learning. I've done it for you. And if that's the case, why bother learning a game?
Yeah, and I think that you have to have one, really good tutorials, and increasingly what's happening is that people, these developers aren't making actual tutorials, and you have to have YouTubers and Twitch streamers and those kinds of people inform the audience, like say, hey, are you new to this game? I'm going to be a steward for the game and explain to you stuff. Mm-hmm. And it's a good thing when you're making those tutorials to tell people, hey, if you do this specific thing, you are going to trigger a lot of people. So just don't do that specific thing. And the question is, how many specific things are there in that game? And that's why I have trouble recommending Siege to people, because there are so many little things that will trigger people. I played the game for 50 hours, not at all being aware of all the stuff I was doing that was triggering people up the wall. And now I'll play it with new players, and I'm like, oh, I don't want to yell at this person, but I have to like politely tell them, like, hey, just so you know, don't reinforce between sites. Like it's just as a rule of thumb. And I have to be polite about it because I know there's a bunch of people that aren't. Yeah.
And it's just like, it's such a minefield for both sides of that conversation. And again, video games are supposed. You don't want to be that. You don't want to be that guy that says like, "Hey, don't learn the game." You know, it's like, "Hey, don't have fun with that thing that you saw that made you get into the game." It's like, "Oh my god, that character does that thing. Oh, I want to play that game." And then but they don't know that thing isn't meta, and it pisses everybody off. But you're like, they got you in the door, so I don't want to piss you off. Yeah, it's not fun for either like party, and video games are supposed to be fun. We've gotten away from a job. Supposed to earn 6 figures. Damn it. I have to monetize my hobbies. This is why I've been playing so much more just like D&D or single player games. Because it's not the same. And it's not like the single player is not multiplayer. I can't play with other people. D&D is like a once a month thing. But fuck, man, the time spent is actually enjoyable for me. And I don't have to worry about so much other just stuff, you know. Yeah, it's sad. I'm not happy about it, but that's just like you said, that's the state of things right now. It's a sad, sorry state. Hopefully someone breaks this mold, but I don't see it happening anytime soon. What is beneficial about playing Siege, though, is like compilations of really skilled players just clowning on bad players will never be as funny as it is in Siege. That game has a corner on the market of just clowning on people who have no clue what's happening. Oh, no. There's like one character who has a C4, and he has the ability to see people's heartbeats through the wall. And like there are so many compilations of just noobs getting destroyed where they're just like stacking up on a wall, 3 people stacking up on a wall, and the person just throws the C4 at the wall and it explodes and kills them on the other side. They're just like, how the fuck did he know? Wall hacks. Well, hacks. Oh my god, no. The wall hacks, when you start playing that game and you're like in the lower elos,
the word wall hacks gets typed out constantly because people just don't know that there are so many ways to see through walls.
Oh man.
It's super fun.
Well, we shot the shit for over an hour, like I knew we would.
Yeah, because it's been 3 months.
Yeah, something like that. We were working on the Creepypasta channel a shit ton. We were very busy. So yeah, no, it's literally been months. For all of you, it's been a week. You're welcome.
Been a week. We hope that you go and binge all of the stuff that we put on the Creepypasta channel for you. Double was an absolute champ for that.
Yeah.
Val was absolutely excellent making that art, and I'm sorry it took so long for us to get those stories and narrated and put out into the world. We have more consistent stuff going up on the Creepypasta channel. We put 31 stories out in October. Go listen to them. We tried really hard. There's a bunch of different music there that Abysmii made. Chelsea made a really cool statue thing, and we made a story about it. Tons of content, tons more to come in the coming months. We're hoping to be more consistent about it.
Of the 5 jobs that we have, this is like kind of the lowest priority, unfortunately, because it's the hardest one to do as far as like creativity and outsourcing and time. So we will try, but yeah.
It's also a matter of just, I wrote stories every day. Abysmii, Double was my accountability buddy. He just drew me something every day, and I had to keep up with it. And I got burnt out doing it, but I also really enjoyed the fact that I was able to do that. I'm probably on track to write 100 stories in a year, and I'm very proud of that.
Nice.
That I pushed myself in that way. And those stories are short ones because we were writing them every day. But there's going to be a mixture of longer stories coming as well. But those are more challenging. And you guys, people on the Discord on Too Spooky, were saying that I've matured as an author, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to say it because I want people to go to listen to all of them to see which one. But one of the ones you wrote for this recent batch, I think, is my favorite story you've ever done. So, and I had a great time editing it together into a video. It was just very inspiring.
I think that I took some time to figure out what it is I want to do when I wrote the Pizza Hatch thing, and then wrote a bunch of short stories in a month. It kind of like I feel reinvigorated to write my normal length of stories again. What I will say is, of these batches of stories, they're easily my worst and my best ones. It's very hit or miss. You just go through them, you'll find out. Some of them are a little trolly. I fucking love the art that Double made for the he likes your crunchy peanut butter thing.
Yeah.
I love that he made that art, and it's so fucking horrifying. It came from a Fearfic, like, double draw this thing.
Right.
And it's like this horrifying creature. And I had to write a serious story about this horrifying creature that came from a joke because it was so cool. And I'm just like, fuck it. No, this thing is like a super cool SCP that escaped and just goes to different Walmarts and steals their peanut butter and just kills people on the way. So I guess tune in next episode when we actually read Silent Hill and Resident Evil stuff.
Actually do this podcast's core objective.
Yeah, it was fun decompressing.
Totally.
Debriefing, that's the term.
Deep breath. Deep breath.
Everybody take a deep breath.
A deep breath.
Deep breath.
All right, see ya.
This has been the Fear Fiction Podcast. Your hosts are Abysmii, Dead Palette, and Slimebeast. Music by Abysmii. Art by C.F. Comer. Voiceover by Atticus Jackson. Edited by Elias the Intern. Subscribe to Fearfic on YouTube to stay up to date on new episodes.
Hello. Are you, Mr. Jalix Owens?
My God, the CIA's finally done it. They sent a lizard person to kill me. I will drink your blood before you drink mine.
Is drinking each other's blood a cultural thing? Oh, sorry. Sometimes I don't fit in well, but I totally exchange blood.
I knew it. You wanted my sweet American alpha male blood that's as thick as A1 steak sauce. Die, you goddamn interdimensional vampire. Ah!
Anyway, my name's Dagon. The Mormon. Want to be a Mormon like me?
The lizard people follow Jesus?
Yeah. Jesus Smith is cool.
Wait, are there other reptilian blood seekers hidden in the Mormon church? Tell me, you goddamn glow-in-the-dark menace. Answer me, you harmonic convergence demon.
I think I'm the first fish monster Mormon, but, people tell me I'm forgetful, so I could be wrong.
Where are the rest of the cold-blooded deep statist? Hey, don't lay down on my porch.
I need a nap after being shot bullets from a gun.
I was curious if you'd die. That was an entire disabilities check worth of 5.7 ammo. That was slightly rude of me. It is by the grace of God that I should apologize as a man, honor-bound to do so. I apologize. Want me to fish the lead out?
No. I'll just have a bowel movement eventually. Do you have, any chips in there? I get hungry after being shot. I eat chip.
All right. I owe you a meal. Come in. I got elk meat from a kill I made at 500 yards with a 25 ACP pocket pistol. But you gotta tell me where the rest of your kind are.
Oh, like I said, we call it temple. But there aren't any people there with shaved heads, except for this one kid with cancer.
The Fear Fiction Podcast is part of the Fearfic Podcast Network. That's right. Did you know this podcast and others like it can be found at fearfic.com? Podcasts such as Resequeled, The Hyper Realist, Do Not Steal, Basement Mormons, Whiskey Dicks, Crypto Crunchers, Domestic Violence with Paprika, Whose Podcast Is This Anyway? Slam Pig Social, and Mushroom Tips with King Mob. Once again, that's fearfic.com. Let's get fickin'.